Well, all passengers and crew from a Delta Airlines plane that crashed at Toronto Airport survived. That's despite flipping over during landing. To get a handle on what might have led to this incident, I'm joined by aviation writer Geoffrey Thomas. Geoffrey, good to have you on the program. Now, firstly, have you seen anything like this ever before? And how did this aircraft even end up belly up?
Well, it's certainly an extraordinary crash and an extraordinary good fortune for the passengers and crew. The plane landed quite heavily. On impact, it lost its undercarriage, lost its wings, lost its tail, and careered down the runway and flipped over in the process. And everybody got out with only one serious injury and 7 lesser so injuries. But quite an extraordinary crash. What caused it? Well, looking at the vision, came down very quickly. There was no indication of a problem between the pilots and air traffic control on approach. But the wind speed there was about 65 kilometres an hour and swirling. The plane was landing into the wind, although it wasn't quite on the nose. But I think what has impacted the aircraft is a wind shear, which is a violent change of wind or a violent downdraft of wind. I think it got caught in a wind shear event, which accelerated its descent and caused the aircraft to lose its undercarriage and wings when it crashed.
So are wind shear events, like you suggest, common in airfields?
Look, they are, particularly in the United States and some other jurisdictions where you get a lot of thunderstorm activity. They're associated, a violent thunderstorm like you might get in Sydney or Melbourne. We all know what happens. You get this freezing cold air comes rushing down, and that's wind shear. That's a violent change of wind, usually in a vertical plane, and it has tragically caused loss of life before, and many airports actually have wind shear alert sensors out around the airfield to alert air traffic control and pilots of such conditions.
And I suppose it was quite a fortunate thing because the plane was landing, assuming that all passengers and crew had their seatbelts on. Must have been a big factor in all of them surviving.
Look, indeed, and one of the other dynamics of this that's possibly not understood is these days aircraft seats and their seat tracks are built to withstand 16 Gs of force. It used to be only 8 Gs of force, and many passengers died not because of the air crash, but because of the seats being ripped away from the seat tracks and flying through the cabin and killing folks. So all the seats remained intact. As you say, the passengers were all strapped in, so they went for a wild ride. But none of them left their seats and were catapulted or were hit by a seat on the aeroplane. So it's one of those safety advances in aviation that's proved to save lives in the long term.
Yes, and of course, this is a fairly serious incident. So what do you expect when the investigations begin, and what could they focus on?
Well, the Canadians, the Transport Safety Board of Canada, is being, in fact, helped by the National Transportation Safety Board of the United States. They, I think, will look at the flight data, obviously look at the flight data recorders, and that will give them a lot of data about the parameters and what impacted the aircraft and also the reaction in the cockpit. So I think they'll fairly quickly understand what happened here and take some action to, possibly enhance the wind shear alerting system at Toronto Airport and so forth.
Of course, everyone can be thankful that there were no fatalities from this incident, but there have been several aviation incidents this year alone in the US. 85 people killed in 4 major disasters. So what's going on in the US? This is something everyone's asking at the start of 2025.
Well, what's going on in the US and what's going on globally? We've had the Azerbaijan shoot down, we've had the Jeju bird strike, we've had the tragedy on the national airport in DC with the helicopter and the plane colliding. We've had the aeromedical crash into Philadelphia, and now we've had this. there is no common thread in any of it. They're all totally unrelated accidents, a freak of just a freak situation, a tragic freak situation that has unfortunately claimed a lot of lives in an industry that prides itself on the improvement in safety. One of the other dynamics we have to consider here is that there's about 130,000 flights a day around the world, so air travel is huge. I'm not belittling these accidents because these accidents shouldn't have happened, but hopefully we learn from them all and move forward and take corrective action.
And do you expect airlines around the world to, I suppose, focus their messaging on safety to instill confidence in people who may be thinking twice before booking their next flight?
Look, not really. Airlines are very reluctant to play the safety card, like Qantas saying we're the safest airline in the world, or Air New Zealand claiming the same sort of thing. They're very reluctant to do that because the next thing you know, as soon as they claim it, they're going to have some serious accident, and so they tend to not play that card at all, and just hopefully the passengers will understand that flying with a really good airline will almost guarantee you of arriving in good shape.
Okay, Geoffrey Thomas, really good to get your insights once again. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.